Why are front squats so hard? Why are front squats so hard to do? Have you ever done front squats and experienced that the bar feels uncomfortable on the shoulders, the wrist hurts, the bar rolls down, away from the shoulders, or even towards your throat? In this tutorial, you learn why are the front squats so hard and what you can do about it. Why are front squats so hard? Let's start with the start position. That's where all the trouble starts. First and foremost, having the bar in front of your shoulders is for most people difficult to find the right position on the shoulders so that it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable anyway in the beginning, but once you have the right position, you will get used to it very quickly. So the first step is finding the right position, put time and effort in to train with the bar in the right position, and it will feel more comfortable within a short period of time. The next one is the grip. So for a lot of people, it's very difficult to hold the bar on the shoulders, especially when they use the clean grip. So with the hands like this, they experience wrist pain, or they even experience that they can't get the fingers onto the bar. So the first cue here is, when you try that, try to get as many fingers on the bar as possible, but only if it's 2, it's still okay, so you can get started like this, and then work your way up. Starting with 2, over time you have 3 and 4. If you do the mobility drills for the wrist, it'll be fine over time. Another solution is using straps. Yeah, so you can work around limited wrist mobility by using straps. And some people work around with a cross grip, which I think is not a very good idea. I've outlined that in a previous video. However, the cross grip, in my opinion, it's just a temporary solution. Over time, you'll run into the same problems as if you've started out doing this one. So why not get this one right in the first place? So, quick one here. Why is the cross grip not the best thing? Well, you have the hands crossed, so you'll always end up having one side higher than the other one. Plus, you won't have it in a very stable position. So it's just not the best idea, in my opinion. So we've spoken about the bar position and we've spoken about the grip. So let's look at the connection between bar position and grip. So if you don't have enough mobility and flexibility in the wrist, you either end up having the elbows too low, which makes the bar roll down over time, especially the more repetitions you do. Or if wrist mobility is limited and you're starting to push your elbows up, you push the bar against your throat, and that makes it difficult to breathe and also feels very uncomfortable. Let's have a look at the movements. So in the descent and ascent, there are also a few things that can go wrong, especially for beginner athletes, but also for advanced athletes. Very often you see in the start position and the beginning of the descent that the upper back rounds on the way down. What that does is it also leads to elbows dropping and the bar will roll forward, or the elbows drop and there's too much load on the wrist. Why is that a bad thing? Well, first and foremost, it's not good to have too much load on the wrist, but also at some point you're so strong that your wrist and arms can't possibly support the weight you're able to squat with your lower body. So, sufficient mobility and strength in the upper back is absolutely important for a good front squat, for an overhead squat as well. The next one you see, even if the grip and the bar position is fine, you see that on the way down, people tend to lean further forward, so similar to a back squat. Remember, the front squat has a more upright body posture, the back squat has a bit more of a forward lean. So you see that happening in the front squat as well. People tend to lean further forward, and that also leads to either the bar rolling forward or, again, too much pressure on the wrist. What is the reason for that? Well, it can be either a mobility issue. So, for example, that the ankle mobility is not sufficient to allow an upright body posture, or it can just be, excuse my English, a screwed up movement pattern. So if you're used to back squatting and you're very used to having that slight forward lean, it can be difficult once you introduce the front squat to cope, or not, cope is not the right word, but to be familiar with the more upright body posture. This is also the reason why I reverse it in my teaching order. So I start teaching my athletes overhead squats and front squats first, so they are more familiar with an upright body posture, and then it's easier to switch to the body posture that is required in the back squat than the other way around. So we've spoken about bar position, the grip, the upper back, also the forward lean. The next one up is the lower back. The lower back also can cause some problems, or there are some challenges for the lower back in the front squat. What are these challenges? Well, think about it like this. The bar is in front of your shoulders and you're squatting down. So the lower back has to work very hard to keep the body in extension, so to avoid any flexion. The reason for that is also, if you look at it biomechanically, if you compare the bar position in the front squat with the back squat, it changes the moment arm and the resistive arm. The moment arm is just the perpendicular distance between the line of action or the axis of where the forces appear. So having the bar in front versus having the bar in the back changes the moment arm, and that also leads to a different activation of the lower back. Another one that's difficult here is the hip, because in the front squat, we spoke about that more upright body posture, you're also descending a little bit deeper into the squat, in most cases, than in a back squat. That also requires the hip to have sufficient flexibility and mobility to allow that deeper descent. And the last link in the chain, the ankle, I've outlined that before. The ankle needs to have sufficient mobility to perform front squat. The upper body is more upright, therefore you need to push the knees a little bit further forward. Yes, you are allowed to push the knees further forward without damaging yourself. So you need to push the knees further forward in order to maintain that upright body posture. The only way to push the knees further forward is to have sufficient ankle mobility. To wrap it up, why are front squats so hard? Why are front squats so hard to do? First one, you need to find the right bar position on the shoulders, which is uncomfortable in the beginning, and you need time and effort to get used to that bar position. Second, the grip. So if you want to work with a clean grip, you need to have also, either you need to get familiar with it, or if that is difficult and you lack mobility and flexibility, you need to work on that. And that also takes time and effort. In the movement, the upper back tends to round, so you need to have, again, a strong upper back to maintain an upright body posture. If you're used to back squats, you might experience more of a forward lean because that's normal for you, or it feels normal. So that will also not help the front squat because you need to have a more upright body posture. The lower back has to work hard and has to work in a different way than in the back squat because of a different moment arm. You need to have sufficient hip mobility to get into a full front squat position with a more upright body posture than in the back squat. And the last one, the ankle, you need to have sufficient ankle mobility to push the knees further forward in order to maintain that upright body.